Okay, so this is Alien Soldier from 1995. It's a full run I recorded of the Steam version, and this commentary will be sort of a mix of gameplay talk, which is basically boss strategies, and also a mix of personal impressions, some trivia, and some thoughts I have on not just the game but also the developer Treasure more generally. So Treasure is a developer that is very easy to like. Their philosophy of focusing on a lot of original new games, every game being very different from one another. They bended a lot of genre rules and conventions. Sometimes you could argue maybe too much, but can always appreciate the philosophy of trying something new. And they focused a lot on fast gameplay, very action-packed, including a lot of weird, bizarre humor, a lot of small little details that could put a smile on your face. Maybe not making the most commercially viable decisions all the time, so they haven't developed a game since 2014, as far as I'm aware. I see them pop up on social media from time to time, on Twitter, and CEO Maegawa, he does an interview here and there. But I think they only have license to like 2 or 3, maybe 4 of their games. At least Ikaruga and Radiant Silvergun, so I guess that's why we see so many Ikaruga ports. But I still have hopes that we will see some more of that action-focused gameplay that we're used to with Treasure, and some novel ideas again. There's a little bit of history that I want to mention before we begin the run, because the run will be pretty busy. So, and I think this piece of history sets things up pretty well, both Treasure and this game in particular. So the story goes that these guys that would form Treasure later, they originally met working for Konami in the late 80s, early 90s. During this time, Konami did a lot of sequels because that's what sells. So these guys that would form Treasure, they worked on games like Castlevania 4, Castlevania Adventure, and Contra 3, or Super Probotector as I know it. And Masato Maegawa, one of the guys, was pretty fed up with just doing sequel after sequel, because he wanted to experiment and do some more novel, original things. So he and a few others around 1991, they started working on a new game, or they were working on a concept, and some of the ideas were focusing on a lot of fast gameplay with a lot of weapons that you could combine so that you could experiment yourself, and there's a lot of variations of those weapons. And there would be a lot of bizarre humor, and a lot of novel characters and ideas, and very fast gameplay with these multi-jointed enemy parts, where bosses consisted of many different parts that would move very smoothly or organically. So they pitched some of these ideas, and I think the game around that, or the game idea around that time, was that it would be called Gunstar Lunatic. But Konami, they said no, this will not sell. Instead, Konami suggested maybe you can do another sequel to Turtles. And these guys would say no, and instead they formed Treasure in 1992, in the summer of 92. So instead of going to Konami or Nintendo, they went to SEGA. And one reason was that the Mega Drive, or the Genesis, reputed to have a pretty fast processor, the Motorola 68K, that is referenced here at the top row. And that one they thought would be appropriate for the fast gameplay they were going for and those smooth animations. Sega was a little bit reluctant at first, so the story goes that the first 11 producers of Sega America said no, but the 12th one was very impressed and only suggested basically 2 changes. One of them would be to remove the mustache of one of the enemies because he looked like Hitler, and Treasure did that. And the other one would be to change the title a little bit because lunatic sound a little bit too crazy or negative. So they came to an agreement that the game would be called Gunstar Heroes. But Sega wanted, around the same time, Treasure to do a game for them, or a licensed game, actually a McDonald's game, so that would be, what is it called, McDonald's Treasure Land Adventure, or something like that. And this game was actually finished before Gunstar Heroes, but Treasure didn't want to release that as the first game, because, I mean, they want to make original games and original concepts, and then the first one would be fucking McDonald's game. That's not appropriate. So they postponed that release Gunstar Heroes first, and then we come to the actual point of this game. Treasure formed 4 different sub-teams after the first 2 games, and those would work in parallel. One of them was an action role-playing game, the other one was a pretty bizarre platformer, and the third was also a pretty weird 2D fighter. The fourth one is this one, Alien Soldier, and that would be a run-and-gun game, and it was not really a team, it was just one person in the beginning, Hideyuki Suganami. He was most known at the time for working on programming for Contra 3 and Gunstar Heroes enemy programming. He was pretty confident, he thought he could do basically everything on his own, so he said to Maegawa that he could do the programming, he could do the designing, he could do the story, everything. And he had many ideas, he was full of ideas, he wanted to have hundreds of bosses, and some bosses would have thousands of parts. Maegawa said basically, okay, that's fine, go ahead. And Suganami started, and I think he spent maybe a year or so on this game alone. But then around Christmas in '94, Maegawa stepped in and managed a little bit. So he said, okay, now it's close to the end of Mega Drive lifetime, let's get this out. And I think they had some deadline around February 1995. So I think at the time the Dynamite Heady staff was basically done with their game, so Maegawa let them assist Suganami in the end and finish this game. So it was a little bit rushed, so far from every idea was included, but he successfully made this extremely challenging game, and it was intended to be for the highly skilled Mega Drive hardcore players, and that's what they refer to in the green comment there, for Mega Drivers Custom. And if that convoluted message wasn't clear enough, then you would go on to the options menu and you would see that the default difficulty setting is Superhard, and the only other option is Super Easy. So that was Treasure's way of saying that if you really is a hardcore Mega Drive player, you should play Superhard, because you can't allow yourself to play Super Easy, come on. And so now we will play this game on Super Hard mode, the default mode, and we will enter a portion of the mad world of Suganami and all the bizarre characters and the fast gameplay and the frequent bosses. So I hope this will be an enjoyable game to watch. Let's go. So the setup looked like this. You need to set up which 4 weapons you want to use. There's 6 of them. And they have limited ammo, so you can choose more of one type. So if we go through them quickly, the Buster Force is your default all-around weapon. That's pretty decent at most bosses, but almost never the best weapon of choice. The Ranger Force is, I guess, similar to the S weapon in Contra, the Spreader. But this one, the Ranger Force, is actually, in my opinion, the least useful of these weapons. It's too slow, it takes too long time between each shot. It's pretty weak against the bosses, so I haven't used it in years. Maybe accidentally I pick it up from time to time and become angry, but I never really tried to use that one. The Flame Force though, that's one of the genre conventions that Treasure did not break, because every good run and gun game should have some kind of flamethrower. Metal Slug has it, and Contra has it, and many others. And of course Alien Soldier should have it too. And it's one of the most effective weapons in the game, can kill some bosses extremely quickly, and that's very satisfying. But the ammo supply and the range is very short. And the Homing Force, your typical homing weapon. And thank God that Treasure nerfed this one from Gunstar Heroes, because in Gunstar Heroes it was way too strong, the homing weapon. Or the homing weapons. This one is kind of weak against the bosses, so maybe it's not the typical plan A choice. That could be a pretty good plan B or plan C, and it's pretty decent on or very good on stages. And then we have 2 laser weapons in the end. The Lancer Force to the right is the one that has the better range, so I think that's why a lot of people use it. Sword Force gets lower and lower range, or shorter range, with lower ammo. So I use Lancer, and sometimes you see players pick maybe 2 Flame Force and 2 Lancer Force, but I like to use a homing at the first part of the game, maybe first third or so. And then you have status window, which is a weird thing they added. There are different types of ways of visualizing or showing how much life and ammo you have. So if you see there at the top, we have 3 rows. The first one shows player health, and when it's flashing, it means that you have maximum health. And then you can do a special attack that we can talk about next. But then we have also force, which means how much ammo you have, and enemy health on the 3rd row. And then if you go to type 2, it shows it or present it in a different way. And sometimes they present it with a question mark to make it more difficult. And there's many variations, I don't know, many, 26 or something. So that's pretty excessive, and I guess that's also a little bit typical Treasure to do some weird things like that. Let's go with type 1. And one more thing before we actually begin, sorry. That's the control test menu, and this is actually quite important, and I want to make a point here that this is maybe one of the genre conventions you could argue they bended a little bit, because typical run and gun game around this time would be very simple in controls. It would be basically a jump button and a shot button and not so much more. And I mean, in Mega Man 3 it was a big thing when you could do the slide move, and that was just one move that you had to memorize throughout the game. But here you have a very weird weapon select thing that we will go through in short. And on top of that you have 4 other moves you need to memorize. And you need to do them in-game very quickly as part of the challenge. And I think a lot of arcade-minded or action-oriented gamers, when they look at this, they get impatient and just shrug their shoulders and say, I learn as I go, and then they press start. Then they die on stage 2 because they didn't remember how to teleport or so. And then they get angry and go online, maybe enter some of those web boards and type that Treasure is the most overrated company ever. We all done it. I think I've done it myself at least once. So, but it is a steep learning curve, and it takes maybe an hour to really get into this game, I think. But then, when you learn these moves by heart, it will be actually really, really fun to play, because you feel really skilled when you do these things, when you do the hovering and the zero teleport and the counter force to navigate against things that looks very difficult, but you can fix them when you know these moves. So a lot of games, when you get better, it feels like the game just gets easier, but this one I feel like actually get better, that my skill feels that it's increasing. So that's a nice feel this game induces. So go through them quickly. Weapon select. When you pick on this one, you can rotate by the D-pad to select which weapon you use, and you have to do this in-game. So unlike Mega Man, where you have a menu to go to, here one, you have to do it while the action is going. Shot and jump is of course the ordinary stuff, and then you have shoot mode change. You can be in yellow mode and white mode. In yellow mode, that's called free shooting mode. Then you're free to walk while you shoot, so you can shoot forward but backing at the same time. In fixed shot mode, then you are fixed or standing still. You cannot move while you're holding fire, but you can change the aim, so you can, for instance, rotate or so with the aim. And you need to know these, because some bosses, one will be much more effective than the other, of course. Zero teleport, that's basically teleporting from one side of the screen to the other, but when you have maximum health, there's an additional thing to it. Then you do this Firebird attack, or this Phoenix attack, that is extremely effective on some bosses, can do an instant kill. And it drains a little bit of your health, 50 points, but many of the times it's worth it. Other times when you have no maximum health, you just do the regular zero teleport, also extremely useful of course, because you're invincible during the actual teleport. The counter force is a pretty cool thing, adds a lot of strategy to this game. Double tapping fire means that you will do this thing that repels enemy bullets, most of all, and transform them to health. It's extremely useful to recover health in this game, is the counter force, and reflect some of the most difficult patterns. And then the hovering, jump and then press the jump button mid-air, and then you start hovering. Also extremely useful on some enemies. Of course, now finally enter the sensory overload of Suganami and Treasure and Alien Soldier. Alright, stage 1, and it's pretty busy right away. A lot of weird looking enemies. Some ones are spitting out bombs. And the soundtrack's a little bit all over the place, and the enemies coming left and right, and a lot of sound effects. And I like the sky though, the background looks like a sunset with pinkish yellow background, pretty nice. And I think we're already at boss 1, so it's pretty fast pace. This one is one of the easiest to get an instant kill with this Firebird attack. So trying to teleport with max health when you get both the tail and the head is one way to get the boss in one instance. Otherwise I'm not that good on getting those instant kills like some of the really good speedrunners, so a lot of the boss battles will be a little bit more extended than that. I think I'm going for a 0 hit run at some point, but take a couple of hits on this one, I have to say. And we're already on stage 2 boss, and this one is Ant Robot, I guess. He's called Android. And Firebird that I did took 2/3 of his health. He's very vulnerable, like most robot-like enemies, for the Lancer Force, but I like to use the Flame Force on him, burn him. A lot of the time he does this jump knee. He sometimes gets epileptic seizures, and then I like to flame this ant, burn him to the ground. And this brain-looking enemy to the right, that one is also very vulnerable for the flame, but immune to the Lancer Force. That's typically how it is, that it's either or, so either they're very vulnerable for the flame or not the Lancer, or vice versa. And I guess this one is a mid-boss or so. And 2 small life stars give you plus 60 points together, and using the Firebird attack drains 50, so you typically need 2 of those life stars to recover health. This one is not one of my favorite bosses. It's a little bit repetitive. You shoot him from one side and then you teleport to the other, and then you shoot him from that side, and so on. So I can talk a little bit about story actually. So I find the story surprisingly interesting. The first third of it seems to be very worked through. And then I think they were a little bit rushed, so we don't get so much for the other 2/3, unfortunately. But it goes something like this. The character we control is called Epsilon Eagle. Originally a very evil character. He was boss of a terrorist group called Scarlet. A pretty ambitious terrorist group, so they wanted to take over a whole planet called Sierra. Or that's the European name. In Japanese it's called A-Earth. But the people of A-Earth defended themselves pretty successfully. They chased away Epsilon Eagle, so he had to hide in some kind of time-space continuum. And that, when he was hiding, there was a spot open for a new boss of this terrorist group. And that boss came to be Psy Tiger. But Psy Tiger was a little bit too extreme, even for the terrorists, so they were a little bit alienated from him. And so he felt that he cannot be a supreme leader until he gets completely sure that Epsilon is eliminated. We can hold that thought because this boss needs some commenting. It's pretty cool. He's called Sniper Honey Viper. He has some flies around him that you can use to restore health. I think this character is under the influence of some drug. Look at that jaw. You can repel bombs on him. That's one cool way to kill him. And the other one is to use the Flame Force and back as he back. And the Lancer Force is also effective. It's a pretty vulnerable boss. You can kill him in many ways, and that's why I like him. Yeah, so, and now we're indoors. We're in some kind of train station. These next couple of stages I like to use the Lancer Force, because most enemies are either these robotic ones or the others that are easy to kill. Pretty straightforward. So this boss, Side Tiger, was looking for Epsilon Eagle, and I need to mention this one also. So this crab was one of the nemesis for me. I had really much difficulty, and then I watched a super play of Mr. Monkey Man that showed me that you can just hide. There's a safe spot there in the top left corner. You can kill him before he even makes any attempt to really attack you or get you. So that's easy. Alright, so he was looking for Epsilon Eagle. Epsilon Eagle was hiding and he didn't know where. He was about to destroy some laboratory to activate some kind of time-space continuum port or whatever. And then he sensed, because he has psi abilities, and that's why I think it's pronounced Psi Tiger and not Xi Tiger or something, because he has some psychic or psi abilities. And he could sense that Epsilon Eagle was hiding somewhere among those kits in the laboratory, and those kits had some psychic abilities as well. And hold that thought, because I also need to comment this weird boss called Joker. He stretches his legs before the battle. That's my favorite part. He's maybe the easiest boss of all. It's very vulnerable to basically everything, and all he does often is just jumping up on the ceiling and hurt his head. He's very easy. So Psi Tiger could sense that Epsilon Eagle was there somewhere, and he took one of the kids as a hostage to lure Epsilon Eagle out, and that was successful. So Epsilon Eagle was hiding inside one of the children, one of the boys' body. And the interesting point, the plot point of this, is that Epsilon Eagle, that was once very evil, he started to feel a little bit of human emotion being inside the human boy's body. And he started to feel particularly this sense of justice, human justice. And so seeing that Kaede, this girl that was hostage under Psi Tiger, that provoked Epsilon Eagle. So he revealed himself and transformed this boy's body into this firebird. And that was so impressive that Psi Tiger thought, okay, I cannot win this battle. So Psi Tiger wanted to just run away. Before doing that, he killed Kaede. And then run away and hide. So the whole first part, the first 9 stages we're playing, it's about a revenge. Epsilon Eagle want to kill Psi Tiger for killing Kaede. So it's a whole revenge story, the first third of this game. So we can continue on that. Well, this boss didn't need too much mentioning, but maybe I should have stayed on the roof. That was some good players do, so that you can shoot more than just jump and shoot, jump and shoot. We're done with the train station, and we're now in the train, and there's Psi Tiger on the top. So we're approaching him, we're getting closer to the revenge of Epsilon Eagle. Train itself is very easy, enemies are just ahead of you, so it's basically just to recover some health. I like the soundtrack here, it's pretty funky bass line, pretty nice catchy tune. This enemy was also pretty cool, Flying Neo. There's an RNG, so sometimes he flies, and then it's more difficult to get him actually. And sometimes he walks, and then it's much easier, especially if he goes from left, because then you have the wind with you. The flame force is very useless when it comes from the right, because of the wind, but when it comes from the left, the flame is really good. As you can see here, it takes a lot of damage. I was a little bit greedy, I should have teleported there, so I took an unnecessary hit there. And sometimes it's invincible, then the homing force is actually pretty good, because it detects him. I don't know why my homing weapon goes up, so I wonder if there's something up there that I don't see. It's like it aims up. Here's a passage I should learn a little bit better. First, there's a worm or something that is quite vulnerable to the Lancer Force. But then there are these bullets, and they intersect a little bit, so I get hit. I think I take 2 hits here or so. So I could do this a little bit better. After a while, you can hide in the bottom right corner like this. Maybe not in the beginning, I think. But now we have the epic battle, the leading antagonist really of this game, even though it's just stage 9. Side Tiger. And we get to see his actual transformation to a tiger. Yeah, pretty cool. So this is a battle they build up pretty well, and it's a pretty cool tiger with some muscles, does some dance moves. And if you're a really good speedrunner, you could, or just a good player, you could kill him before he really attacks you. But my timing was a bit off, so I took a hit, and that hit actually costed a lot of health, minus 368 points. So I think I'm actually just one hit here from getting a game over. But he's very repetitive, he has basically the same moves all the time, so he's a little bit on the repetitive side, so a little bit unfortunate. He is very cool and the music is great, it's a lot of tension. But maybe he could have had one more move or so. Shoot some flames out of his mouth or something, I don't know. There was a lot of fire in the animation, it seemed. So maybe with some more time they could have added a little bit more to him. And I think I watched the speedrunning event that I think, what's the name, Soust I think. Sorry if I get it wrong, but that was a really good run, and he said basically he killed this boss in an instant, very efficiently. And he said basically, oh, this is a little bit anticlimactic. And that's a little bit of a critique you could have against Treasure and this game in particular. That sometimes the better you are, the better you get, the quicker you finish bosses. And they get almost a little bit anticlimactic. That I mean, an instant kill can be a really nice feeling every once in a while. But some of the bosses, especially this one that is, you know, an antagonist of the whole story, should be a little bit more extensive, more epic than that. And so if I compare with my favorite developer when it comes to action games, Rising, a lot of those boss battles, like in Balgarega or Tsukiko Rentai, the better you are, the more extended the boss battles become, and they get more epic. And actually more challenging in some sense. But with Treasure, and especially this game, it feels like they just get easier and easier until you don't really care much for them anymore. But I mean, this game has, depending on how you count, maybe 30 bosses or so. I've seen counts of 33, but I don't know how people count it actually. There's some mid-bosses you could argue for, etc. At least 25. And for me at least, it doesn't apply to many of them, so you could defend against that critique also. This boss is pretty cool for a change, or for to defend Treasure. It's some kind of shark boss, and when he collides with you, he grabs you and takes you down to the lake, and you need to bottom mash to get up again. And he shoots these bubbles, and they're more difficult to dodge when he shoots from the middles. I think I took a hit here. It's an example of that. I tried to repel those bullets to turn them into life stars so that I can get max health and do the firebird attack on him. But I don't know why I had some poor timing on the Lance Force here, because that one is pretty effective. And if you want, especially if he has somewhat not so much health left, then you can use the Flame Force, and when he starts to shoot bubbles, you bend the knee, you get close to him, bend the knee as Daenerys would say, and then just flame him to death before he shoots the small little bubbles. So that's also effective. But it feels nice to kill bosses with the Firebird attack, even if it's not the first one, it feels nice. I like the background. I guess we're in some kind of swamp stage with trees, evil trees looking at you. And those fishes later on in the game, they will jump up, and you can actually get some health from them. And I think the homing weapon aims for those fishes, so they actually affect gameplay also here. As you can see, it goes down to the fishes after you gotten the other enemies. And those orbs, they do not only refill health, they also add or increase your maximum a little bit. And this one is vulnerable for the flame, but not many of the other attacks like the Lance Force. Alright, this kind of octopus boss with some little guy in the middle that controls it is actually pretty challenging, I think. And before he fades away, he often shoots this one single laser, so I jump up and hover to avoid it. He starts a lot of wind, and you get a lot of lobsters and fishes thrown at you. And somewhere around when he has 1/3 of health left, like now, he begins the second phase, where the wind is moving faster and the screen scrolls faster. He shoots 3 lasers, and the third one has a little delay, so that's a little bit weird timing that you need to get if you want to have a no-hit, I guess. But you can time so that you trigger the last form very late. Because even if you have like 1/3 health of him left, when he begins an attack, you can still, or a little bit more than 1/3 when he begins the attack, you can do enough so that he has very little when it's finished and the next one begins. So you can get him in between cycles. And here's another of those enemies that are vulnerable for the Flame Force when you step on that silo, or whatever it is. And when you step on the next one, a lobster will pop up there. Guess it's a lobster, right? And I guess it's here that the fishes actually will start to jump up. So if you have low health here, you can just stand here and wait for a while, and those fishes will jump up and you can shoot them. Alright, that's Teddy. It's screaming for help. And now he drives the boat with some excitement, it seems, because he's nodding his head, pretty cool. And he moves the boat in the same direction as I move my D-pad. Sorry. So that's why I'm fixed shooting mode here, so that I stand still, so I don't move out of the boat or so. Instead I can rotate the weapon and kill all these enemies, and Teddy will follow along, so if I move right on the D-pad, the boat goes right, and etc. And now we try to run away, but this giant lobster is pretty fast, so that's to no use. Takes Teddy, throw him into the lake. Sorry, Teddy. So that's the second one that the Epsilon Eagle failed to save. First there was that girl, the hostage, Kaede, that Side Tiger killed in front of him. And now it's poor little Teddy. So Epsilon Eagle is not good at saving people or teddy bears. But it's good at killing lobsters. Pretty good anyway. What is difficult about this boss is that the boat moves along with you, so it was not really Teddy doing anything, it's you. So it's very easy that you jump out of the boat or teleport out of the boat, so you need to move the boat to the end of the screen so that you teleport to the edge of the screen, so that you stay on the boat when the teleport is finished. So that's why I need to move to the left before I teleport to the left. Alright, so another worm that is vulnerable for the Lancer Force. And of course I kill him when it's mostly below surface, so I don't get all the life stars. And this is one of my favorite bosses. This is called Bug Max. And he has 2 forms. First is some kind of protective shell. And you can repel those bullets if you want to increase health. Or recover health, I mean. And now his second form. And here I like to use the Buster Force actually. Because it's thick, so we get all those small little insects and the life stars. Then I do a lot of Fireburst attack back and forth. It's a bit lucky with the RNG here that I got a lot of those attacks. But I really like doing the Firebird attack on him like that. Sometimes he can grab you, it's a pretty cool thing he does. And if you're using weapons, the Lancer Force is pretty good on his head. And if you're desperate, because it's very limited time, so typically the challenge there is that you may be low on time, and the RNG can give you some other attacks that are more difficult. If you're really desperate and it's okay to lose a little bit of health, then the Flame Force, and just get below him and just shoot him with the Flame Force, pretty effective. But you may take a couple of hits. Right, we're inside, and we only get some lights when a boss appear or when we shoot. Or when he teleport, I guess. This boss has 3 attacks. This one, if you can call it an attack. And the second one is throwing these things up and down, and very repetitive, easy. And the third one is shooting 3 bullets. I guess it's a mid-boss, and he's very easy. And you get an orb after him, so... you will get a lot of health. You need to just survive him, and that's it, basically. I didn't mention that when you grab one of those weapon pods, if you use the same weapon as the one that is showing on the pod, then you will add more ammo to that weapon, as indicated by those yellow bars. You can do this 4 times for each weapon, so you have 8 extra bars. That's what I think, at least. And that was a safe spot, or whatever you call it. There was some stumbling blocks, but there's a pixel there where you don't take any health. Alright, this boss, Sunset Sting, he differs a little bit because he can actually poison you. So if one of those things hit you, it stays on you, and you start sweating. It's a nice little detail. And your health is continuously draining or reducing. It took me, I don't know, many hours before I noticed that. I wonder why I couldn't do any Firebird attack on him, and then I realized, oh, I'm poisoned. And I'm saving the Flame Force attack for the next boss, basically. So that's why I'm using the Buster Force a lot. I don't know, maybe it's a better location to do the Firebird attack because it doesn't deal much damage as I use it. Maybe you can get him to get to the closer to the edge of the screen. That's typically how it's most effective. If you can get the boss to be on the very edge of the screen, then you can teleport to that edge so that it stays there for a long while. So for the whole duration you really damage the boss. Right now, the Flame Force is effective, and you need to kill this fast because the RNG will throw some worms and flies at you, and sometimes the angle is difficult. And here some good players jump before the wing turns, so that you can hover just at the bottom of the screen, just above the bottom. So instead of falling, you're hovering right above it. Then you can shoot this spider from below. That's a pretty cool thing. It was an aha moment when I saw some speedrunner do it. I think it was Mr. Monkey Man. But you need some good timing, and I didn't have it, so I like to face this boss. Actually, it's a pretty fun boss. You can repel those fire attacks, so you get health from them. And those small little spiders, those are the priorities. What they do is that they drag down this wing, so that in the end you will have no platform if you don't kill those small spiders quickly. And sometimes it can be really quick. It can be like 6-7 spiders at once, and they are extremely effective at dragging it down. And I like being this free shooting mode, the yellow mode, so that I can hold fire and then walk around, so that the spider attacks don't get me, and I can still shoot the big one and all the small ones. It feels nice being the free shooting mode and shooting in a particular angle, and at the same time be able to move. When he shows his ass like that, then he's more vulnerable. And when he has very little health left, then he starts to, I guess he's in panic mode and walks around. And that was a nice feeling doing the Firebird attack on him. I don't do it that often. And now we're in the final stage of the second part of the game. So 2/3 of the game, basically. And this is the other form of Epsilon. So Epsilon was Eagle, and when he went to this kind of time-space continuum thing, then the other part of him, an evil part of him, became this Epsilon 1 that we're now facing. And that's a pretty cool boss. I like the character design of this Eagle, it looks amazing. Very evil boss, pretty weird music. A nice background with the A-Earth, I guess it's A-Earth. But he only has basically one attack, this one. So you wait for the first shot and then get in the center to avoid all the others. So it's a bit repetitive, and I think just like a Side Tiger, maybe I would have liked one more move from him. But he's a cool boss, and nevertheless. and he loses his head. It's also pretty cool. So I like to jump up here and hover and take a look at A-Earth. It's a nice view. So finally Epsilon Eagle saved something, saved the A-Earth after failing Kaede Teddy. Oh no, he didn't. A-Earth got destroyed. If I get the story right, I'm not sure actually. Because, yeah, it's a pretty nice view though. You have Epsilon Eagle hovering in the middle of nowhere in space, and a new greater evil projects himself. And then we transfer. I don't know, I have no clue where we are now. We're some other planet, I guess. So I think they were rushed, and or they were rushed, and I think this suffered from it a little bit, that there is no story now. Not even in the end credits we have more story about what actually happens. So I think this last third, I have no clue if they have a story but didn't include it, but there's nothing more. So maybe you can make up your own story, I don't know. If I would make it, it would be something like it's not just human justice that he feels now. Maybe he feels human hatred and just want to kill that last enemy. I mean, there's nothing more to save. The whole A-Earth is destroyed. Maybe that includes the whole humanity. That's what I think anyway. Some story segment alluded to that, I thought. So maybe Epsilon Eagle is now just driven by hate and just want to kill all last enemies or last beings. So he's lonely in space, can hover in the middle of nowhere like that. Maybe listening to Godspeed You Black Emperor, some post-apocalyptic sound maybe. Anyway, so we have a couple of stages left. I think there's 25, and this one, was it 16, 17 or something? And this stage, I guess all speedrunners probably turned off after maybe stage 2 or so. But I take a long time killing these flies one by one. So sorry for that. And in the end I think I messed up one jump, so it's for no good anyway. But it's a nice background anyway. Reminds me of Sweden, North Sweden. You have forest, you have snow, you have mountains. We have one of those, Kebnekaise it's called. And I guess the flies looks pretty cool as well. If you get close to them, they either fly towards you or away from you. I'm not sure what determines that. And I think I have maximum ammo, maybe not all, not this one. I need one more Lancer Force here to have maximum ammo. But there's a couple of more chances. Not so many though, so if you switch weapon a lot during the game, you will not get maximum ammo. And if you use continues, all extra ammo will disappear for the second continue. So actually the game gets much more difficult once you use continues. If that makes sense. The teleportation animation is pretty cool there. This boss is called Destroyer. MK2, I think. Maybe you can stand on the ceiling and kill him faster, I don't know. So I can say maybe a few words about the development of this game. So I told the story of Suganami trying to make this game on its own basically, and it would be this hardcore game, very difficult, very challenging, even for the Mega Drivers custom. And around the Christmas of 94, Maegawa, the CEO, he stepped in and he let some other programmers on Treasure assist Suganami and finish the game. And they worked hard as hell, so the whole New Year's Eve was ruined, as I said maybe before. They basically were working the whole night of New Year's Eve, and basically just turned around, said Happy New Year's, and then continued work on the computer again. And they continued like that, the story goes, until February, I think, somewhere. And that was... sorry, I just messed up that jump, that was kind of silly. I wanted to use the Flame Force there, because it's pretty nice when you jump up the platform, then you can sweep the whole enemies. And maybe we can hold a thought there, because I want to mention something about this boss as well. This is Melon Bread, this is a guest star from Gunstar Heroes. if you remember the Dice Palace, the greatest stage of that game in my opinion. Maybe the 7-4 stage is also one of the greater. Melon Bread, it's pretty easy. You can teleport a lot or you can hover above him, but he deals a lot of damage, so he can surprise you and actually be quite difficult from time to time. Alright, so they were working like hell. One more time, sorry. The girl here is Kaede. So that's the one we failed to save in the beginning of the story, so we never saw her, but that's the one that Tiger killed. And I think the story is that she tells here, like, you failed to save me, you fucking bastard, and now I'm turning into 7-4 instead. And I play poorly there. He always does that kick in the beginning, so I don't know why I didn't teleport the first thing I did. And then I don't know why I jumped forward when he threw that thing. That's not the smartest move. Anyway, this Valkyrie force is very vulnerable for the Lancer force. Some good players, they actually have 3 Lancer force here, because it's very useful but very low on ammo. And only 1 flame force, because it's not that many bosses left that the flame force is effective on. Okay, so they worked like hell in February until the very deadline, and Maigava has said that in the very last night before the deadline, Suganami fell asleep on the couch. And while being asleep, Maigava went into the computer and did some last programming and changed the parameters of how difficult the game would be. So he made it a little bit easier. So he changed, you know, those stats, how much point you lose if you use the flame bird attack or if you get those life stars, things like that. So, and without telling, of course, that's to Suganami, so that's a little bit of a shame. But I hope Suganami was okay with it. So the game is maybe not as difficult as they originally intended, or Suganami intended it to be. Treasure got a lot of this critique that the games would be too difficult, but they played them themselves and they really wanted to make games that they enjoyed themselves, and because they played them during testing, they got pretty skilled at them and knew the things, of course. Alright, so this is the third of the 7 forces, and this one is the most boring, unfortunately. It looks pretty cool, the animations are great, but he cannot hurt you when you're on the left side of the screen, so as long as you stay on the left side, there's nothing he can do. I guess it's more about the clock, the time, because he protects himself like that, so if you don't have the timing, it takes a long time. You can actually shoot him twice. I just shoot him once there, but you can choose him 2 times before the next one. So it's a battle against the clock, but you have a lot of time with the 7 forces. You have almost 10 minutes, so it's 7, so I don't really feel that much tension. Maybe in the beginning when I took a lot of time on the first 2 bosses, and then on this third one, yeah, then maybe I felt a little bit of pressure, if I recall. And the music is very tense, it's very great. Great soundtrack. It's the same 7 Force music as in Gunstar Heroes. Same composer, Non. And the 7 Forces is an example of this game being a bit rushed, that they didn't implement all the ideas they had. So it's actually just 5 of them instead of 7, as in Gunstar Heroes. So we only get 5, and the 5th one is actually the result of a contest that Beep magazine had for Treasure. So the contest was about rearranging this part of 7 forces from Gunstar Heroes. Maybe change the color and make it a new boss. And the winner made a boss that I think it's called Siren Force or so. We will see him shortly after this one. Here I'm just teleporting a little bit and shooting him just a little bit because I'm actually trying to recover some ammo for the Lancer Force, because the next boss very vulnerable for the Lancer Force. So here's an argument for actually, if you want to do good on time, you should maybe have 3 Lancer Force here instead of a Buster Force. And he's sensitive in the tail. He has one more attack. If you get a little bit closer to him, he will turn around and then he will shoot one single bullet at you, a big one. But he shoots it in 3 different ways. so it throws me off a little bit. One short, one long, and then one like curvilinear one. But you can repel that one to get some more health, so if you really need health, I could use one here actually. Then you could do that. Right, now we get the fifth and last of the 7 forces, and this is the best one in my opinion. And the only battle I think that is under the sea in this game. So the game mechanics are a little bit different. That is one of the more fun parts about this one. It's very difficult in the beginning to move, so this is an obstacle. I think, yeah, I died a lot here in the beginning. It's so difficult to move in the water stream. And you have those mines or bombs that deals quite a lot of damage. And the boss itself, if you get close to him, he will get you as well and deals a lot of damage. Yeah, he looks pretty cool. Siren Force. So that was a good thing. Yeah, I like those contest things, or when they let, you know, fans contribute to the games. Didn't Capcom do something similar for Mega Man 4 or something? All the kids had to design, or kids could design their own robots and send. And I think they basically let all those robots be the kids' creations. That was maybe a little bit of laziness, but still cool. Alright, we have just a few stages left. So this is stage 21. So 4 left, I guess. Or 5 left. And I guess we're also in some kind of asteroid belt. This one makes me a little bit dizzy of all the moving stones in different layers. The Mega Drive, if I got it right, the Mega Drive, one of the limitations of the Mega Drive is that it actually only has 2 layers. So you need to use, you know, lightning techniques and such to create the illusion of more layers, like 4 layers that Treasure tried to make. And another limitation of the Mega Drive or the Genesis is the color. If I got it right, the Super Nintendo has like 4 times as many colors or so at once. The Mega Drive has 64, if I recall correctly. And Treasure did a lot of Super Nintendo before the staff members. Contra 3, for instance, Super Castlevania. So they were used to all those colors, and they had to do a lot of lightning, shadows, and things like that to add the illusion of more than 64 colors. And I really liked the visuals in this game. It looks beautiful in my opinion. It's one of the most visually impressive Mega Drive games for sure. Those transformations or explosions are pretty cool as well. Stage 22. And this one I'm refining, so it's a work in progress. One other thing, these guys will shoot bullets if you don't shoot them fast. But I haven't learned exactly where to place myself because there's a missile soon that will hit me. Yeah, this one, so I mean maybe to be a little bit more to the right there. Another strategy that I've seen some people use is to stay in the top left corner and use the counter force, this one, and repel all the bullets. But then you typically, or at least I, take a couple of hits. So if I'm going for a no-hit run, I'm not sure that's the best location to be. So I will refine the one I'm working on here. This boss is cool. I really like this one, but it's a lot of RNG and you have little time, less than 1.5 minutes. So the difficulty is if you have low ammo, and he's not that vulnerable for some of the weapons. Like if you use the Lancer Force, you need to aim for the head. It can be quite difficult because he gets out of screen a lot. It's difficult to predict where he will come. But he has one attack and he does it soon. That is the best one for you, I would say. It's this one. You circle around and then you shoot some bullet that you can repel. And you can create life stars of them. Recover health, and you have maximum, then you can do the Firebird, and then you get both the tail and the head. So it's very effective on him, and it's a nice feel. And now come my favorite boss in the game, I would say. He has an amazing entrance, so I will be quiet for a few seconds. Yeah. It's Wolf Gunblood. Is it a metallic fox or wolf on a robotic horse with evil eyes? Tap tap. That visual detail and the sound effect is amazing. I love it. I get obsessed with it each time I play him tap tap. And the sound, I thought it was from the horse, but maybe it sounds like a wolf. And the guy is named Wolf Gunblood, so tap tap. So when he does the tap tap, then either the horse jumps, and the obstacles, those hurdles, they deal a lot of damage. But at other times the horse moves down, and so you need to know, it's difficult for me, I think it's RNG what he does. Tap tap. And here he moves down. It's easier when he moves down, then you get more time to actually follow him without getting hurt. So therefore I have a pretty high starting position when he does the tap tap. Yeah, pretty cool rifle he has also, and when he hits you, all of those shots hit you, so you get like -4 like 10 times or so. Tap tap. And the ammo on his chest is pretty cool as well, and the cowboy hat. If you use the Lancer Force, I guess it's the best option is to go for the horse head or ass. Tap tap. And if you go for the Flame Force or the Buster Force, then you should aim for the cowboy, I think. I think the really good ones on this boss, what they do is that they use the Firebird attack in the beginning exactly when he shoots the rifle, so that you somehow transform those bullets into life stars, and then you can do the Firebird again, and you can kill him basically in instants almost. 2 bosses left. Here's a small little glitch, so if you move down to the right corner, you don't see all the 4 attacks, but it's easy anyway, so it's not a big deal. And here's a safe spot if you pixel your shoes, so that you get in between these rockets and center lasers or whatever it is. And those shots at the center, they are the more dangerous one. You lose a lot of health on those. There's a technique you can do here. I saw it at the speedrun by was it Soust? That you can cycle through your weapons when you shoot him, and then you will refill ammo quicker. It saves a little bit of time, I think. So you can kill him when he's on the floor before he reaches the ceiling, I think. Right, last boss. T. Leo. I like to do this ritual where I try to summon him. Works every time. So this is one of those bosses where, yeah, we can look at this animation. Pretty nice guttural sound. I like those sound effects. So this is Celio. He has 3. You can attack him in 3 ways. The Firebird attack, which I did there, but didn't really hurt him a lot. And then this bullet that you can repel, although I missed the timing there. I think I get it next time. And the third one is to shoot when you're out of ammo. No, I didn't get that one either, so that's poor. That one is the third attack. Maybe here I get it. Yeah, there you go. And then he has one more attack that I think he will show in a while, where he throws you up in the air and then shoots those big laser guns he has on the back a couple of times. It's pretty cool looking, pretty great physique, this boss, but maybe he should have had maybe one more form or so, or one more attack. This one's pretty cool though. I don't know a foolproof way to deal with this attack, but I do a slow teleport from side to side, and usually I don't take a hit doing that. And here we got him. So that's it. And maybe I think he should have had one more form or a little bit more, a few more attacks or so. And maybe that's another example of the game being a little bit rushed in the end. I mean, they wanted hundreds of boss, so I think they had some ideas of adding more to the final one. Or maybe that was a genre convention they wanted to break. Alright, so we're doing the Firebird attack to get out of here. And then I don't know what's else to the story. Everything is destroyed, I think. So are we hovering in the middle of nowhere, listening to Godspeed? Or what's up? Maybe. We get the end credits, no story. And the end credits, I think Treasure uses this a lot. There's some stars in the background, black background, and then here they have a horrible font effect. Very 90s. Main programmer Viva Choco Monkey DX, that means Suganami, or Nami for short. The man who was mainly responsible for this game. And as I understand it, the remaining programmers assisted him later on to finish this product. Including the CEO, Magawa himself. All the photos I've seen of him, very well dressed fella with a white shirt and a nice looking tie. Fukuryu, another one from Dynamite Heady production if I recall correctly. And Yaida, main programmer of Gunstar Heroes, I think. Yeah, I think so. Yaipon, sometimes he's called. And Shindo, I think he didn't work for Treasure that long. If I recall correctly, he worked on Final Fantasy games later. Yuchi, one of the most important Treasure people, did a lot of background design in the beginning, and then became more of a director, working on a lot of the shoot-em-ups, Ikaruga, Radiant Silvergun. And then he joined G-Rev and did Kukuga, also worked on Strania. And now he's at M2. He's one of the more active Treasure members. That's not saying much though, to be honest. But he's working on some kind of Ikaruga game, Ubusana. Should mention Murata sound effects. He did basically sound effects for almost all Treasure games. Pretty cool. And also did sound effect for Shining games on Sega Saturn, which I just noticed looking at the credits. So that's pretty cool. And I could see some similarity because they have a lot of those guttural sound effects in Shining the Holy Ark as well. Each time an enemy appears, it's the same effect, I think. Like Leo. Some boss introduction. Well, Iuchi, he was working on Ubusana for M2, but it's always delayed. M2 seems to prioritize other things. I hope we get it. I like his big concepts with Ikaruga and Radiant Silvergun and stuff. Very cool fella. Alright, so some of the bosses. Backstringer, this is one of the best spider bosses in games, isn't it? I like those wings dragging it down. Sure, you can kill it very quickly if you do that kind of technique where you hover below him, but very cool, challenging boss, for me anyway. Bugmax is also in my top 5, I would say. I like the little sound effect he does when he grabs you. Joker, top 5 easiest boss anyway. One of the few video game bosses that are frogs but do not extend their tongues. Epsilon 1, pretty cool, should maybe had one more move in my opinion. Shell Shogun, a little bit misplaced in this universe, maybe, I don't know. This one fits perfectly in this universe. Sniper Honey Viper, I just hope he get into drug rehab soon. I would like to see him in a sequel where he's well dressed and things have gone well for him. Madame Barbar, pretty cool crab, actually very difficult until you see the safe spot in the top left corner. Destroyer prototype, the more cooler of the more fun, erratic of the two destroyers. And this one is maybe top 5 too. A dragon-like bird with helicopter wings. I like him, and I like the wind effect there, pretty cool. Sunset Sting, the only boss I think that poisons you. Also makes him stand out a little bit. And this is definitely top 5. Wolf Gunblood Garupa. Is that for galloping? Really cool cowboy. Very confident as he rides the horse. Tap tap. Side Tiger. A lot of muscles, but didn't last long. And then 5 of the 7 forces. Valkyrie Force. And I didn't comment on this one before. Medusa Force. I really like that stage, that loop, when you can refill. That's the last time in the game you can select new weapons. So it can be pretty stressful if you have one weapon you don't want to use, because it's difficult to grab the others. Sylphid Force, pretty cool, but maybe it should have been a little bit more dangerous. Artemis Force, pretty cool cat, I like the sound effect. But maybe also one more move from him. Maybe I'm too greedy with asking for more moves of these cool bosses. Celio, I think maybe it's a prediction of Zlatan Ibrahimovic, the Swedish footballer. You have the C initial. Zlatan think of himself as a lion. He had a man bun in 2015, the story. They have similar physique, so some similarities to think about. I like the treasure logo, pretty nice. Especially when the treasure itself has flames. Speaking of good logos, presented by SEGA. Something like that. Why did I drop that sound effect? That was the best. High score doesn't really make much sense in this game. You can stand still like in many run and gun games, you just milk popcorn enemies. That's not fun. Player damage means how many times you took a hit, I think. So I took a hit 19 times, so that's a bit much. I would like to go to 0. They wanted 0 to be a particular, something that would give you a reward, but they were not fast enough to do it. And they apologized to the fans. One of the interviews, they apologized for not rewarding for 0 player damage. Clear time, half an hour, which is sort of 3 times more than speedrunners. But I'm proud to say I used 00000 continues. I pity the fool that needs a 5-digit number of continues. That's also only available in super easy mode. Maybe if you have some physical handicap, you can understand requiring 10,000 continues, but still. Alright, I think that's all I had to say. Busy game, a lot of fun this one. Hope you enjoyed. See you next time.